Welcome. This is Rick Levine from the NAUMD, and this is the third installment of our Sizing Tech series that we've run in December. And today's topic is manage wearer expectations. I'm very glad to have BodiData here, who has sponsored and been presenting this series this month, educating us. And perhaps, for those that didn't hear the first two, maybe Bruce, do you want to give the high-level view of BodiData and maybe what was talked about the first two episodes of this series?
Sure. Thanks, Rick. Thanks, Rick. Thanks, NAUMD, and thanks to all of you who are attending the webinar. BodiData was created to solve the problem of matching the infinite number of body shapes and sizes that are out there to ready-to-wear clothing. We're very conscious of the fact that when you're putting all those body shapes in ready-to-wear clothing, you're putting it into clothing that was designed for one particular body shape, a fit model or a mannequin, but not clothing that moves with all the different bodies that it was created for. So we're aware of the constraints and the difficulties and the hurdles that you had to overcome in order to do that. So with that in mind, we decided that we would take an approach of measuring accurately, matching skillfully, to address what I just mentioned, and ultimately managing wearer expectations. The first webinar, which dealt with matching or measuring accurately, dealt with the importance of having the right solution for the right business environment, because there's many solutions out there and they all have different strengths and weaknesses. They have limitations and they also have strengths. So depending on the preference of your client or the preference of the wearer themselves, there could be one particular measurement solution that is attractive to one situation versus another. That's why BodiData has an environment where we have every available measurement solution, including several that are only available through BodiData. But measuring accurately is not sufficient because you're in the size matching business. So you have to measure accurately. That's a requirement, but it's not a sufficient condition. You also have to match skillfully. So the second webinar was a discussion about what it takes to match skillfully. That it's much more than just trying to use a size chart, which is a generic set of measurements, very limited set that are used across a range of styles, and that it requires a much more in-depth understanding using the technical information and many other attributes of the particular garment to understand how that garment is going to fit its body, drape on that body, and respond to the elasticity of fabric while meeting the visual appearance standards of the company that you're providing the uniform for. And then the third requirement is managing wearer expectations. This is really important because when you use technology to match people to clothing, sometimes they have the impression that that technology is going to create a custom fit for them. But in fact, you're still putting that individual body shape into a piece of clothing that was designed for a fit model. So I call that the square peg in the round hole. You have one particular style, and it might have been developed for a body that's much different than the person that you have measured. So you have to put them in the optimal size. And because of that, and the technology being used, creating the impression that it's a custom fit, it's important to manage their expectations so that they understand they have received the best size for their unique body shape, and that a smaller or a larger size would be the wrong selection for their body.
Yeah, so Bruce, I'm smiling because you hit on, I mean, that touches me as a consumer directly, because I'm round around the middle. Okay, so if you're taking my measurements and you've got, I'll call myself normal in the shoulders, but perhaps I've got more girth, right? I should have lived in Elizabethan times, but I've got more girth around the middle. And so what you're saying, and yes, I would have the expectation that, oh, well, all of that's going to be taken into account, and I imagine it is, but you're not, this isn't a cut, trim, make order. You're not, right? The manufacturer is not going to turn around then and just make that garment just for me. Kelsey, am I saying it back like correctly, or?
You're saying it perfect. You're saying it perfect. Yeah, and Kelsey did a great job of addressing that in the last session, where she talked about how you fit people optimally based on that product. But when it comes to managing expectations, what's important is to let the wearer understand that they have the best fit. We've realized it's important. I think it's frankly a capability that is only unique to our system. We're not talking about whether they have a preference for a loose fit or a tight fit. We're helping them have an understanding of how it's going to fit their body. Because there could be nothing worse, Rick, than you use the technology, make the best size recommendation, the wearer receives that recommendation, puts it on and thinks, oh, this is loose on the waist, I'm going to return it for one that will fit me better, when in fact that is the product that will fit over their hips.
Yeah.
So it has to be loose in their waist. So that's what we manage through our features of our process. But maybe, I'll let you and Kelsey discuss that.
Well, Kelsey, I mean, so your role is in charge of like the customer experience, and right? Am I getting that right?
That and working with brands to kind of build the sizing algorithms with their system, but that is absolutely a part of it as well.
So how does the brand then, how do they manage their customer expectation? And I get a piece of why that's important, but when you talk with brands, why, what do you say about why that's important?
So right now, kind of, I think the biggest issue is size uncertainty. So customers don't have enough information right now. And we kind of touched on that, but in the standard kind of form, either with online or ordering, they don't have enough information to make an informed decision. And there are size charts. And I talked a bit about kind of the limitations of those and how they blanket garment categories and can't provide really great sizing last week. But there's not enough information to those end customers. So there's that. There's also the lack of standardization in sizing. So not even within the industry between brands, but even within a brand, within a garment category, you could have multiple different variations of sizing. And then a whole other can of worms is vanity sizing. So the size 4 that an employee wears on the weekend may be very different from what they're wearing in their uniform. So they may wear a size 8 in their uniform pant, or if it's a legacy style, they may be wearing a size 12 in that pant because it has an older naming convention. So they could be in a size 4 on Sunday and a size 12 on Monday.
Okay, well, I'm going off on a tangent, and I know you probably don't want me to, but when you talk with uniform brands, then how do you reconcile that? I mean, are uniform brands leaning into this fashion sizing scheme, or are they staying?
Some are, some aren't, and it's to varying degrees, right? So it could, there's no rules for it. So it could be to any degree that they could be buying into it. For an employee, it's very jarring to, you have a closet full of size 4, and then you get recommended this size 12. So that's why it is so integral that you provide them the details of how that garment is going to fit them, that this is their best size, and then also how that's going to fit them. So how I know, okay, this is going to fit me like this in the waist, this is going to fit me like this in the seat, because only giving me you're going to be a size 12, but I have my closet full of size 4s, I may not have a whole lot of confidence in that, but it instills more confidence the more information you can give them about how the product is going to fit them, and that they're actually getting the optimal fit. And then when they receive that garment, they'll know that, they'll realize that.
So that's why, Rick, we have features associated with our system that we're able to let people understand on a granular basis before they order, when they use our body match system, and after they receive the garment. And that's important too, because you kind of have three kinds of people when it comes to the uniform, or if they're used to ordering stuff online on the web. You know, they can get a size right. The process of getting the uniform may be just something they're not that interested in. It's something they have to do. They'll look at the size, they'll just accept the recommendation. And in that size 12, size 4 example, Kelsey just had, that will come home to roost later when they receive the product, when they first look at that size. There's another group of people who are intensely interested because of their pride in their image of the uniform, and they'll pay close attention to that recommendation. And without good information, they will doubt that recommendation and may override a recommendation. And then there's other people who will look at it, accept it, but not be too sure. But the first group doesn't even remember the process. The second group might, and the third one, you don't know where they're going to be, but they're going to get the product. What we do is we tell them at the time they're ordering, this is how it's going to fit in the different parts of your body, whether it's on the chest, whether it's on the waist, whether it's over the thighs, etc., so that they understand that if they go down a size, it's not as good of a fit, or it may not fit them at all. And if they go up a size, it's going to be very loose. So we put them in and recommend to them the garment that is going to require the least amount of alteration if they want a perfect fit. Bearing in mind that unless you have the same body as the fit model that the product was designed for, it's not going to be a perfect fit. And for 20% of the people, it'll be a very good fit. The rest of the people, it will be a varying quality fit, because body shapes are that different. So then we've done that. Now people, before they get the product, depending on how much attention they've paid to it, they've ordered it, and they have either chosen to understand how it'll fit or have chosen not to. When it's delivered, our body guide function helps remind them that they've received the best product. They're able, on an interactive basis, to review the fit. There's a series of steps that they optionally choose or don't choose to make it as interactive and interesting to them as possible. And they can understand why it's the best fit, and once again review how a smaller fit or a larger fit would fit them. Because can you imagine? Otherwise, that first person that doesn't pay any attention, that gets the size 12, either just rejects it out of hand without trying it on, or puts it on, and because it's not a perfect fit, says, I knew I wasn't a size 12, and they return it. But with our interactive system, which is on our app and which is identified for them when they unpack the product, they're able to understand that they've got the right fit. And the same applies to the other groups, because time makes people forget. And so now they have.
Does anyone go to the extreme, maybe, of then if I try to override it, does it warn me you're about to buy a square peg and we got you as a round, a hole that you're supposed to wear? So what are you doing?
So the way our system works is that decision, we let the uniform company communicate that if they wish to. We will recommend that range of sizes, and the uniform company, if someone wants to override the size recommendation, has the choice. There's some environments, they could be related to the labor situation in a company, where the company may not want to do that. So we think it's best, first and foremost, to provide the information that lets the person understand the selection they're making and what the right selection is.
So how do the products that BodiData offers then feed into that scenario? So are you saying so there's the leading up to the measurement, there's the actual measurement, and then you're saying there's this post measurement feedback loop, right? So how do your products manage all of that then?
So body guide, as Bruce just spoke of, I can go into a little more detail, because that's really kind of built to resolve this expectations post-purchase, managing those expectations post-purchase. So let's take a scenario without body guide. So you have your customer, she orders and receives a size 8. She tries it on, the hip's fine, but the waist is too big. You guys may not deal with this, but curvy body shapes for women, this is a very common problem. So she's not happy with the fit. She returns it, she gets a size 6, she wants a better fit in the waist. So she gets the size 6 and she tries to pull it up over her hips. Not gonna happen. So she has no idea there's a 2-inch grade in the hip, and that she was recommended that size 8 for that reason. She couldn't fit in the size 6. So now she has something that she can't even wear. So she has to make another return. So you have now caused 2 costly returns. You have the shipping and the restocking of all of that. And you, very importantly, have a frustrated uniform wearer. So if you go through the body guide system, that same person, they get their uniform, they're not happy with the fit, they're not satisfied with it. They're prompted to go to the body guide feature in our app. They're walked through a simple set of screens where they can provide feedback in all the relevant areas of the body. Excuse me. And based on that feedback, she's then recommended simple alterations that can get her that more custom fit in that particular size, that size 8. And she can pass that along to a tailor. And then also she can review the other sizes. I think Bruce kind of just touched on this, but she can review the other sizes up and down to see, okay, there's no way my hip is going to fit in that size 6. So you are allowing them to engage in the feedback process. So they're able to review their sizes that they received. They can send that feedback back to the organization. She's been given a solution for the fit issue that she's having, so she can fix that fit issue now. And she's avoided multiple returns, which is frustrating for her and also expense to the uniform company as well, or the client.
So the key here is this managing expectations. So that's a good example of someone who maybe did or didn't pay attention or forgot because of a 12-week delay in receipt of the uniform, that why this was the best size. You know, she was advised or had the opportunity to look at the information that was in front of her and well displayed based on the uniform company's preference. But she's got it now. And can you imagine if she returned that, like Kelsey said, gets a smaller size, then has to return that again? The reverse logistics costs are ridiculous. And that's what you need to avoid. And if you don't manage wearer expectations, you will have an unnecessary return. So that's why this trilogy talks about the importance of measuring accurately. You have to measure accurately, but if you don't know how to match measurements to clothing properly, it's worthless. It's just a sophisticated electronic measuring tape. You have to match skillfully, so you have to know how that body, that 3-dimensional body measurement you've taken, is going to fit into what starts as a 2-dimensional pattern and converts into a 3-dimensional object and is impacted by the elasticity, the garment construction, visual appearance standards, safety standards, and job function requirements. All of those things that impact how a garment's going to fit and what the right size for that garment is. And then if you don't manage wearer expectations, you can have a situation where even though you have now, through measuring and skillfully matching, given them the best size, they could return it unnecessarily. So you want to stop returns. You got to do step 1 and 2 to at least begin the process of stopping returns. But the only way you can make sure that there aren't unnecessary returns of the right product is if you manage expectations. And that feedback Kelsey mentioned is important too, Rick.
You know, the sizing tech has been around, it's, you know, not forever, but, you know, it's not like this is the first rodeo with our industry and sizing tech. What's interesting, Bruce, is much of the discussion has typically started with this, let's stop returns, let's fix returns, let's get, better. I was going to use the word dig. Does that date me? Am I a boomer now if I say what I dig about what you're saying is you're bringing empathy to it, right? And empathy is a huge, thought leadership buzzword these days from, CEOs and at very big companies. What you're explaining to me today is that it's not just about the size and the fit and, yes, we have to do that. And there's various technologies that can do that with X amount of reasonable accuracy, and we'll trust that BodiData is, just as accurate as the next guy. But equally important is the human factor. And that is that, well, what is it that I'm doing when I measure myself? So educate me a bit, have some empathy for me, because I'm doing this and I'm not sure. And now I'm confused because I normally buy a 4 at at the dress barn, and now now you're telling me I'm a 12. And then on the other side, that once I get the item, right, did I get what I expected? Do companies, and now I'll ask a very tangible question, do companies then also, like, so what triggers that? So I get this garment, then I go back to the website and look up what the expectations were. I mean, how does that happen? And or are companies also then including instructions? Is there some kind of, is there a little QR code that pops that expectation list back up or something?
So we do. So our the users of our system, when they originally order through the uniform ordering system, the uniform company displays how it's supposed to fit. So that's the first step. So that's the before you order sequence, where we show how the smaller size across the different parts of the body at a granular level. So that's where we first have that management empathy that you referenced. And then when they get it, because the timeline can be big and they can forget all about what they learned when they were ordering, on our phone app, they're able to review that product. And when they review that product, that again helps them understand that this is how the product fits them. It's not about their body. It's about how the product fits them. There's no embarrassment with a product that was not designed to fit your body on a custom basis. And 80% of the time, it's going to be a pretty awkward proposition for people, just because if you have a rectangular shaped style and you have a curvy shaped body, as Kelsey mentioned, you already have, a parts of the body that aren't going to fit that rectangular style better. That's why there are designs and styles in retail for, different, high-waisted, low-waisted, mid-waist, etc., and different tapering and shirts, etc. But that's not always an option in uniform. In our system, if that is an option, we recommend the one that's going to fit the best for their body shape. That happens automatically. But there's something else that we hit on, which is the feedback that goes to the uniform companies, because we're gathering information about fit that's for the uniform company to be able to use and understand. And that's really important, because this whole process of using size technology to reduce returns is important because of the value associated with two things. Number one, the cost of excess inventory. And number two, the environmental cost associated with excess inventory, especially when it ultimately results in returns. So if you think of it quite simply, and we have a complete analysis of this that we do for our customers and with our customers. But if you think of it very simply, and it's much more than this, if you have 15% returns, then you have at least 15% excess inventory. So if you have $1 million of inventory, you have $150,000 of extra working capital that you're carrying. And you're either carrying it and paying for it at your cost of capital, And if your cost of capital is 20%, which a lot of companies don't always realize it is,
Right.
then that's costing you $30,000 a year to carry that. Or you've got $150,000 that if you use our systems, because we have many things to help with inventory management, but if you can use that to reduce your inventory, then you get that working capital back. And the company would be better to invest it in the stock market than to just have it sitting there going to waste. But if you've also got 15%, by the way, the number, if you have 15% returns, the amount of excess inventory you carry is significantly higher than 15%. And I'll be happy to explain that to our customers because it's part of our, frankly, proprietary understanding of inventory. So
Nice.
the key is, though, if you have 15% extra inventory, then you have produced 15% and more, as I just said, inventory that you don't need, that's never really going to be useful to you. So, you know, almonds use a lot of water to grow. Cotton is the almond of the apparel industry. And if you're producing, and if everybody is producing 15% extra inventories, and they're dyeing that with inks and different stains that are also an incredible impact on the environment, then you've not just wasted your working capital, but you've contributed to the environmental issue that we have that results in one garbage truck every second of every minute of every day of the year going to a garbage dump to either burn the clothing or put it on the pile. And a lot of our uniform customers are worried about ESG concerns that were nicely dealt with at the last NAUMD convention, but we've been dealing with it for quite a while with them. And a lot of them want to become B Corps if they're not already. And in order to meet those guidelines and standards, they have to be very sensitive to this. So you want to measure people accurately. And if you've just got an electronic measuring tape, just use a tape measure. You want to match them skillfully. So you have to understand how to do that. You have to manage the wearer expectations. Then you can reduce returns. And with the information that, you know, in our case, we believe we can provide to our customers, we're able to help you use that to reduce your inventories, gain back a huge amount of working capital, or alternatively, looked at another way, reduce the cost of carry of that excess working capital. And in addition to the savings you get from just using a system that's much less costly than the traditional manual fit lines, manual measurement process. So you win on both sides of the equation. It's far beyond the superficial appearance of the costs.
Understood. And feel free to add in my three-dimensional turn of the equation, and that you're making the worker more comfortable, and their experience is a better one, just dealing with the consumption of their uniform. But
when a happy wearer is a happy employee.
Yeah,
and a happy employee is good for business.
Right. So I'd like to open up the for any questions that people might have, and while we're waiting for someone to ping us in the chat or in the Q&A, were there any other final? So feel free to post questions. Or were there any other final thoughts? I mean, I loved your last statement, Bruce, was a good kind of summary of.
Well, I'll add one extra thing because it was raised in the last seminar and I want to be absolutely clear on it. And it comes to data, whether the data is provided by the uniform company, in which case it's technical specifications, et cetera. All of that information is maintained in total confidence, subject to NDAs, and that's a standard in the industry. But there's another kind of information, which is the customer's measurement information. So you have technical information, that's all maintained in confidence. And then you have the privacy information of the customers. And our philosophy is very simple. It's our policy, which is the only person that owns their body measurements is the person we measure. And they're the only people that control it. And they provide access to the information that's needed in order for us to make size recommendations. We don't make measurement recommendations. We only make size recommendations. We don't even keep size information every time, because we have clouds and never have pictures or anything else. We just create the measurements in real time in order to provide a size recommendation, and the measurement disappears instantly. So there's the protection associated with that, a method associated with that, but more importantly, a policy. No one has a right to tell me that they own my measurements. I own my
Right.
measurements.
Yeah, and that's, you know, that's been an ongoing debate in this space, you know, and so it's good to know, you know, that at least for BodiData, it's crystal clear where you as a company fall in that debate. Well, any other final thoughts from Kelsey, or are we good?
I think we've covered just about everything after 3 seminars. I think
We hope so.
we're all wrapped up.
Right. Well, it's bodydata.com if you want to learn more about what BodiData does specifically, but I also appreciate the thought leadership that your team, Bruce, has provided in these 3 webinars, and educating us on the nuances involved in kind of the before, during, and after. To crudely say it, you guys have the nicer language, but you know, so with that, I thank you for your time, Bruce and Kelsey.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for
having
attending.
us.